morning and welcome to the Tune Tapestry, the show where we tug at the threads of traditional and classical music from across time and place and discover the surprising connections around the world. Yes, I'm Rachel Hay and this is the Tune Tapestry, the show all about traditional and classical music from around the world, the connections between them. And this is, of course, our third week looking at fiddles and fiddle-like instruments from around the world. That's any instrument with strings and a bow. So we're going to kick off today listening to two cellos, which is, one might say, simply a large fiddle. So here is the group Two Cellos, that's their actual name, playing Air on a G String by Johann Sebastian Bach. That was two cellos playing Air on a G-string by Johann Sebastian Bach. That is, of course, Western classical music. But that's not the only form of classical music, and a violin or a cello isn't the only form of bowed string instrument. So let's head now to Persia, where there is a completely different genre of classical music, their own classical music tradition and their own instruments. Specifically, in the case of fiddle-like instruments, the kemanche, which I've probably pronounced wrong, but it's an instrument that's used in Persian, Azerbaijani, Armenian, Kurdish, Georgian, Turkmen, and Uzbek music. The name means little bow in Persian, and in fact the Turkish name is adopted from the Persian name. There is a long neck with a fingerboard and a peg box, and the peg box and a pumpkin-shaped sound box that sits on the lap. Traditionally, there were 3 silk strings, but these days there are 4 metal ones, usually like a violin, and they're tuned like a violin, which is G, D, A, E. Now, I'm a continuity producer on Sunday afternoons, which you might know is when Persian Hour is on. And about a year ago, I was there CPing for Persian Hour, and I heard a piece of music. We hear a lot of pop music on Persian Hour, but there was a piece that had, I thought, this amazing fiddle music. I knew it probably wasn't a fiddle. I didn't know about the kemanche at that point, but I'm like, the guy playing this is seriously skilled. It was, so many notes all over the place, and as a terrible fiddle player myself, I know how difficult that is to manage, and it sounded, to me, amazing. The thing is, neither me nor Shahza, the Persian presenter, can remember what song it was, so I haven't been able to hear it again. But anyway, here is a young woman playing the kemanche. Her name is Farzana Medizadeh, and she's playing Kemanche Prelude, composed by Aliaskhar Bahari. That was Farzana Medizadeh playing Kemanche Prelude. On the kemanche, an instrument, fiddle-like instrument used in Persian, Azerbaijani, Armenian, Kurdish, Georgian, Turkmen, and Uzbek music. So let's head a bit nearer to Europe, and you may remember I've been talking about the lyra, the Byzantine instrument, which is the ancestor of a lot of European fiddle-like instruments. Now here's another descendant of it, the lyrica, which is used in Croatia, Dalmatia, and Eastern Herzegovina. The name means little lyre. It's pear-shaped, with 3 strings, as the Byzantine lyra had, and a lot of lyra descendants have 3 strings, and it's used to accompany the traditional linjo dance from the region. It's played with the base of it resting on the knee and the neck resting on the shoulder. As you may know, a violin is played almost exactly the opposite way. The base rests on the shoulder. And according to Wikipedia, the lyrica is used in songs by a modernish singer, Mate Bulic, but I couldn't find a recording of that, so instead here's Juro Miletic playing for a linjo dance. That was Juro Miletic playing for a linjo dance on the lireta, the fiddle-like instrument found in Croatia, Dalmatia and Eastern Herzegovina. So, sticking in the similar sort of area, let's go to Albania, Albania and Serbia, where they play the gusla, which is also called a lahuta in Albanian. The name comes from gosel, the Old Slavic word for fibre, which obviously is useful on a stringed instrument with a bow. There are fibres all over the place. It's usually made from maple. It's an oval-shaped boat drum thing with an animal skin cover like a drum, and string made from 30 horsehairs. The source I was reading from was very specific that it'd be 30 horsehairs. It traditionally just has a single string, rather than 3 like lyras have, 4 like violins have, and it's used, but there is a 2-string version found in some areas, apparently, and it's used in the Balkans to accompany the singing of epic poetry. We've been hearing just a lot of plain instrumental music, but in some places the instruments are used specifically to accompany singing and poetry. So the instrument is held between the knees, and like a lyra, the strings are not pressed into the neck, but they're stopped by pressing sideways with the fingernails. And, interestingly, singing to gusla accompaniment was made part of Serbia's intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO in 2018. Now, the instrument does have an unknown origin. 6th century Byzantine historian Theophylact Simocato wrote about the small lyres, which were brought by the Slavs who settled in the Balkans. So this may have been the gusla, and that's quite a long time ago. So here's Boško Vijacic singing epic poetry, accompanied by the Gusler.
Dobro pjeva. Zilko, dobro pjeva. Dobro je pjeva. Svako. Dobro je pjeva. Dobro su, pravo su, dobro je pjeva.
Stvarno čudo, oduševio se.
Pod stoljetnim maslinama šatori se mnogi pjeve, pod njima se odmaraju srpske čete preživjele. Šatori su male kuće, ali za sve mjesta ima. Savio se drug do druga pa je tako toplo svima. Samo jedan momak mladi, tužna oka, blijeda lica, sred pjesama pošalica, svi ga redom zadirkuju i svako se sa njim šali. Pitaju ga što je tužan, pitaju ga za čim žali. Daj olakšaj srcu tugu, povjeri nam boli svoje, pa će tebi lakše biti, pričaj druže Radivoje. Radivoje pričat ode, ispunit ću vašu želju, ama to će i kraj biti vašoj pjesmi i veselju. Žalosna je priča ova, a još teža sudba moja. To je bilo posle onog na Moravilju tog boja. Neprijatelje bješe jači, mi morasmo dalje ići, jariješ ih na rastanku, časkom svojoj kući stići. Kuća mi je pored puta, ja pritegoh pušku bolje i još uzeh dvije bombe ako dođe do nevolje. Stigo kući, ama kasno, tamo bijehu već Bugari. Evo prve strašne slike, obješen mi babo stari. A kada kročih malo bliže, sva u krvi majka leži i ranjenim glasom viče, Radivoje, sine bježi. A kada kročih preko praga, poludjeti tada htjedo, pokraj moje mrtve ljube, mrtvo leži naše čedo. I ono se nevinašce već rastalo s ovim svijetom, vidio sam da je bilo probodeno bajonetom, a u drugom kraju sobe gdje ikona stoji stara, kao da su gostima vino pijuše s Bugara. Tad mi krvca zali oči i ja je
That was Boško Vijacic singing epic poetry, accompanying on the gusla, the traditional instrument played in Serbia and Albania. And we've also, in the last half hour, heard from Croatia and Herzegovina, where the lyrica is played. Gusla has 1 string, lyrica has 3. So let's go to Bulgaria now, where they have a fiddle-like instrument that has 3 to 5 main strings with up to 16 sympathetic resonating strings underneath. I've talked about sympathetic resonating strings before. This is the gadulka, the traditional instrument of Bulgaria, whose name means to make noise, to hum, or to buzz. It is most commonly played in the context of dance music. The body and the neck are carved out of 1 piece of wood with the body in the shape of a bowl, and the top is carved out of a different piece of wood with a shallow arch. It's described as quite heavy compared to a violin, and it has 2 D-shaped sound holes with the bridge in between. You may know a violin has 2 S-shaped sound holes with the bridge in between. The gadulka strings are made out of steel and sometimes bronze, and I'm told there are regional variations in the tuning. So, let's hear this instrument, shall we, with its up to 16 sympathetic strings and 3 to 5 main strings and variable tuning. Here is Todor Bakoyev playing Kustendilsko Horo by Atanas Valchev. Now, I do know from being the continuity producer for the Bulgarian program, which is also on Sunday afternoons if you want to listen to it, that horo, in my language, in Gaelic, it just means Yahoo or hooray, but in Bulgarian, it is the name of the traditional dance. So here's Todor Bakoyev playing Kustendilsko Horo, which is dancing music, on the gadulka. the Tune Tapestry here on 5EBI 103.1 FM, Adelaide's multicultural broadcaster. And the Tune Tapestry is, of course, the program all about traditional and classical musics from around the world and the different connections between them. We have been spending the last few weeks looking at fiddles and fiddle-like instruments, that's bowed string instruments from around the world, and in the last half hour we've spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe, listening to 1-stringed, 3-stringed, 16-stringed instruments used to accompany music and poetry. So let's go back to the standard violin fiddle you might be familiar with, and also hop over to a different continent and listen to American fiddle music. Here is Hilary Klug playing the Arkansas Traveler, accompanied by a banjo, and also accompanied by step dancing, which I talked about a few weeks ago. Here we go. Was Hilary Klug playing the Arkansas Traveler on the fiddle, American fiddle music, accompanied by banjo and step dancing or foot percussion. And while we're continent hopping, let's head to Africa, specifically to Kenya, where they have a one-string fiddle-like instrument, the oruto, which is played especially among the Luo people. Has one string, as I said, and a drum the shape of a tin can with a long neck, and it's played with the tin can wedged against the side, played with the left hand, bowed with the right hand. Interesting thing that I've noticed with all these fiddle-like instruments is that they're pretty much all playing the notes with the left hand and the bow with the right hand. I would have thought there would be maybe more diversity, especially in Western Kenya, where the oruto is not descended from the Byzantine lyra, like pretty much all the other ones we've encountered in Europe. But anyway, it's played that way, wedged against the side, played with the left hand, changing the notes on the string, just one string. And it's often accompanied by drums and singing. So the term oruto can also refer to a genre of Kenyan music which uses the instrument, and it's apparently a central part of the benga musical genre. So I think we have heard a Naruto piece played a few weeks ago, which was a very traditional wedding music. Instead, let's hear something different. Here's a popular band, Kenga Aruto System, playing for a group of dancers in a pub. That was the Kenyan band, Kenga Aruto System, which features the arutu, which is the local one-string fiddle instrument in Kenya. Now we've heard an African instrument, we've heard American fiddle playing, so let's head back to Europe. And I did mention the Byzantine lyra, the ancestor of a lot of Europe's bowed string instruments or fiddle instruments. And one of what is considered the most popular surviving form of it is the Cretan lyra, used in the traditional music of Crete and other islands in the Dodecanese and the Aegean. It's pear-shaped with 3 strings, and it's held in the lap like a small cello. Interestingly, strings are stopped by pressing fingernails against the side of the string, rather than by pressing the string into the fingerboard. And the piece we're about to hear may be played more like a violin. I'm not sure, but I will explain in a moment why I think that might be the case. And there are several different forms of the Cretan lyra. Some have just one string, which is used as a drone, with the tune played on two other strings, and therefore the middle string is tuned lower than the strings on the outside. Some have the three strings tuned in G, D, and A, like a modern violin. And I suspect that might be the case here, because we are about to listen to Yorgos Kaludis playing the Bach Cello Suite number 2 in D minor, which is the Bach Verzeichnis 1008 Sarabande. So, Western classical music, and I've just spat out a lot of Bach's music is all classified according to the BW, the V, the Bach Verzeichnis, which basically all his music has been given a number, and it allows classical music geeks to work out which one is which, because Cello Suite in D minor, he probably wrote a lot of those. Anyway, this is the Cello Suite in D minor, BWV 1008 Sarabande, played by Yorgos Kaludis on the Cretan lyra. lovely violin music? No, that was in fact Bach's cello suite in D minor, played by Yorgos Kaludis on the Cretan lyra, a three-stringed descendant of the Byzantine lyra, played on the knee, like a cello, but it's about the size of a violin. And another close descendant of the Byzantine lyra is the lira calabrese, or Calabrian lyra, the traditional instrument from Calabria in southern Italy, which, like the Cretan lyra, has 3 strings and is played upright and resting on one knee. There's a long, thin, pointy egg sort of shape, the sound box does. And like the Byzantine lyra and the Cretan lyra, it's played with the nails touching the strings to stop them from the side rather than pressing on the board. So it is quite similar to the Byzantine lyra and the Cretan lyra. So let's hear from Fortunato Stilitano playing the accordion and Giuseppe Luca playing the lyra, and they are playing a tarantella. was Fortunato Stilitano and Giuseppe Luca playing a tarantella on accordion and Calabrian lyra, which is the traditional fiddle-like instrument from Calabria in southern Italy. And that pretty much concludes our adventures through fiddles and fiddle-like instruments of the world. For now, there's quite a lot of fiddles in the world. I'm sure we can revisit this topic if people liked it. But that's it for now. That's 3 weeks, which I think is quite enough fiddle music. Did I just say that? Anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed it and that you'll join me next week as we begin looking at Christmas music from around the world. Obviously, mid-December now, getting quite close to Christmas next Wednesday, so what else are we going to look at next week but Christmas music? So I'm back every Wednesday at 8 a.m. with the Tune Tapestry, where we tug at the threads of traditional and classical music from across time and place and discover connections around the world. It has been bowed string instruments. It's soon going to be Christmas music. And I'll leave you today with possibly the most familiar form of fiddle music and fiddle instrument to most of you, which is, of course, classical violin and Western classical music. So here's Hilary Hahn, violin prodigy and regular guest star on the YouTube channel Two Set Violin, playing the Paganini Caprice 24. So until next week, I've been Rachel Hay, and this is the Tune Tapestry.